And we are live. Welcome back, everybody, to Beyond the ToolBelt, episode 308. I am your host, Ty Backer, and thank you for joining us again on this Wednesday edition. We will be back after our short intro from our sponsors.
Is your lead flow down? Whether you're a company owner, office staff, salesperson, or installer, you're a roofing rock star. We help you get more leads with custom SEO, Google Ads, and a pro website.
Welcome to Behind the ToolBelt, where the stories are bold, the conversations are real, and the insights come to you live, raw, and uncut. Every week, host Ty Cobb Backer sits down to bring you the stories, the struggles, the lessons learned, and the wins. No filters, no scripts, just the truth. Please welcome your host of Behind the ToolBelt, Ty Cobb Backer.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to Behind the ToolBelt, episode 308. I am your host. And today we have another returning guest, actually, someone that I not only respect, but had the chance to hang out with him the other night at an amazing networking event that I guess you co-hosted, marketed, pushed it. And he owns a marketing consulting business, and he is the host of a podcast himself called Schiffbauer, right?
Schiffbauer over rocks.
I used to get that. Schiffbauer on the rocks. I think I said it to myself one too many times. The wrong way, probably.
I always psych myself out. I remember when I first on, we were play on words. You're like Schiffbauer, shipbuilder.
Yep, that's right. Schiffbauer. That's right. But anyhow, you're doing some big things, man, in the marketing space and in helping businesses sharpen their message and elevating their brand presence and get real results. I've watched it. I know people that you work for, and you're the real deal. And so today we're going to probably dive into a lot of that and what's working today and in today's market and how businesses can build awareness and the right way, I guess, and how companies can stand out in a crowded digital world. So, Paul, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. You know, it's a Wednesday, hump day. It's a little rainy where we're at because I know you're on the other side of the county recorded.
Yep.
But I'm happy to be here, man. I ran into you, super organic. Hadn't seen you in a while either. That's a crazy thing just because of life, you know?
Yeah.
And you're like, you want to come on the show coming up? I'm like, yeah. A split second, I'm like, let's do it. It'll be fun.
Yeah, you didn't hesitate. That's for sure. No, it's good. It was good to see you. And like you said, I haven't seen you for a while, but we were doing a lot of traveling. You know, we weren't, we'd come into town for a day or two, sometimes a week, and then we'd go back out on the road. And between expansion with TC Backer and then taking the podcast on the road there for a while. And this season, because right now it's roofing convention season, this season we decided to just focus locally. We wanted to stay local and bring local people back on the show, kind of like it used to be, get back to our grassroots and stuff. And when I saw you, it was like perfect timing because you were, 3.5 years ago. We're actually coming up on 6 years, but I feel like you were still one of the early adopters, one of our earlier, guests. And in studio guests, you're probably like one of the first in studio guests that we had, and so it's pretty cool for us to be able to catch up and see where you're at today. And I do catch some of your stuff on social, but first off, man, I want to say what a great job that you guys did the other night on that event. And I guess if I had a question for you, my first question for you would be what inspired you to want to get into that type of networking environment?
Oh, that's a great question. So it's a little twofold. So just in general, time for those checking this out, maybe live or at a later date. To me, marketing is about community at the end of the day. If I say one word, it's communal, and people might think marketing's not community. Well, it is at the end of the day. You're connecting with folks, demonstrating value or showcasing certain features, whatever your product, service, or brand might be. And it's that connection point. And that's what community is at the end of the day. It doesn't have to be a necessary digital ad. It's, real life and in person, like us running into each other.
Mhm.
And ironically, we're a digital marketing focused consultancy, but I've gotten most of my business generated to date doing this about 7.5 years full time, just doing good work, meeting people in person, old school, man. It's that communal aspect. But to answer your question about doing an event on that scale, I've done a couple like micro events of my own throughout the years. I've done kind of collabs, like you saw with Integrity First Home Buyers, with different like business associations, like Buy Local Coalition's a good local one in South Central PA. But it was really funny and organic how that came about. Matthew Toth, business development specialist over at Integrity. We got lunch right at the beginning of October, and we're just kind of just networking, man. What are your goals? What are vice versa? What are you doing for your business at Integrity for those guys? And what am I building over here? And I told him I have a big desire just to do kind of more events on a larger scale, like I've done them in the past, but like moving into 2026. And he sits for a second. Remember, I'm eating a crab cake at White Rose Bar and Grill. And he's like, "Do you want to help me partner up on this event?" So I'm like, "What do you mean by partner? You need want a sponsored table?" He's like, "No, no, 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 partner. Like, really put your name on it, push, promote it, co-host it." I sat for a second, just like I sat looking at you or stood looking at you. I'm in. Let's do it. Because to me, it just would be beneficial to all parties involved and just the community at large if I could bring some people in my network who might not be familiar with the kind of events Integrity has hosted and what they kind of want to do long term in their respective network. We were talking kind of pre-call. It seemed like a hit for just the general attendee, where that might have been really their first kind of like evening networking event, seminar. And then, folks like you and some of the other like partners where, they were there present, having tables, representing their businesses, where there's a lot of shared value. And I think there's a lot of shared tension. And I told Matthew while planning it, the timing's perfect because having a networking event about networking, that's essentially what the theme was. We had this panel of folks with different backgrounds and perspectives and how they build their businesses and how they build, their own little communities and networks. I think this time of year, the holiday season in particular, people get lost when it comes to networking just because of life. Everyone has these X amount of holiday parties, but I feel like sometimes the intentionality, loses focus. And I think this is the most critical time to be focused if you own a business and just in general, if you want to grow as a person, individual. It's that classic end of the year, beginning of the year, who you want to be. This is the time you ought to look back and reflect now. Where am I coming up short? And how can I, better position myself and respectively connect with others to get where I want to be moving into 2026, where I'm sitting, this time next year in November, man, I hit those goals because I really sat down. I was more intentional in what I'm doing day to day and my business, my life, and the people I'm connecting with.
Yeah, for sure. No, it was an amazing event. From our experience, we had a group of us there, and we did end up sponsoring a table. And I would say I reunited with you.
Mm-hmm.
That's very important point right there too. But we also connected with several different other people that that may or may not need our services, but not necessarily even that. There was a guy that does mortgages and things like. There was an attorney, a business attorney who focuses on, business stuff.
I think that might be my attorney who was there.
Yeah, maybe. And I got a coffee date with him next Friday.
Nice.
Actually, no, I'm sorry, not next Friday, because next Friday is Black Friday. It's actually the following Friday. I was trying to schedule. He hit me up, and I was like, "How about next week?" And I said next Thursday because I looked at my calendar.
Oh, it's open.
I'm wide open, on that, because it's just Google Calendar. I don't have the holidays in there. And he was like, that's Thanksgiving. I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
So,
he probably thinks I'm a psycho.
Yeah, right. Or I was going to blow him off like I was just throwing a day out there next week.
Yeah.
No, but next week's going to be busy as crap for us. We have our little event that we're doing on Wednesday. But so getting back to kind of touching on what you were talking about, and a lot of the speakers were bringing it up. So what's your philosophy on building real relationships versus, just going to one of these events and collecting business cards?
Oh, that's great. I'm going to pull from Mike Tisch, a good friend and mentor of mine, was on the panel. Steal a little bit, one of his nuggets, but share for your audience and folks out there. I think when it comes to going to an event and say you're meeting people, do a little research on who's going to be in the room if you can. And Mike gave a great example because he was coming up from Baltimore County. He does a little business up here, but it's not his neck of the woods. So he immediately looked, okay, what names are associated publicly with potential sponsors or people posting certain things on social media? Okay, here's this business, here's that business. I know this person's in the room. So if you're going to an event, fish out of water, think about, look at who's you're going to know potentially going to be there. And think about, too, it's just like, what do you need or want out of the event? And I think coming into a place more out of a want than a need is going to serve you so much, because you can't force a connection. At that point, it becomes more transactional. It doesn't become real.
Yeah.
So it's just, okay, I'm looking, potentially, maybe I am looking to pick up a new client. So look at folks in the room. If your market is homeowners, how many of them are going to be homeowners? How many of them are potentially be real estate agents that connect you with those homeowners? Right. Make a list or make a mental note when you're meeting with them or running into them at these events. Okay, I'll follow up with Carter. I'm going to follow up with Jimmy because they do this. They serve similar markets. We might not hit it off right away, and you probably shouldn't. To me, any relationship you develop professionally in the networking space, it goes hand in hand with dating. You're not necessarily going to get married on the first date. You shouldn't. Right. Something probably wrong there, unless it's like in the stars, But it's planting those seeds and just being really intentional. One thing, and people always look at me funny. Well, I do have some older business cards, but I intentionally 9 times out of 10 don't bring them to events, Ty, because it's the classic. I got a card. It's a mental note potentially to follow up with someone. But if I'm talking to someone 10, 20 minutes and we feel like there could be a next step or there's an initial connection, schedule that lunch, schedule that coffee, schedule that Zoom call where, hey, we talked about this. Why don't we just set up right now?
Yeah. No, I agree. That's why I asked you that question, because I know you didn't have any business cards with you. And it's like you said, planting seeds, putting yourself out there, stepping outside your comfort zone, doing some research, like you said, to see what type of networking event am I going to? And fortunately, we kind of knew what we were getting, involved with when we decided to go to that. And I'll be honest with you, I wasn't going there to see what I could actually get out of it. We were going with the intention of what we could bring to the table. And, it worked out great for us because, like I said, we made at least 5 connections, and not necessarily connected at that time, but other people noticed that we were there because, we went to the table and stuff. And that was kind of the point, but it was more so, what could we bring to the table? Because, and you can tell, and I hope nobody takes this the wrong way, but you can tell rookie networkers you know, because they got the stack of business cards in their hand, you know, and that might be old school too, but like their mission is just to see how many business cards
they can pass out, and it's like a pat on the back for them.
Yeah, right. Like, yeah, I just handed out 50 business cards. Okay, that's great, but what connection did you make? Okay, not just with those people, but how were you the connector? How were you able to connect other people with other people? And that's what a lot of networking is about, is being that guy. And I think somebody was actually talking about, you know, being that connector. Like, everybody knows that I know that guy that might have, you know, a person that has a solution to your problem, you know, and that's a good place to be, you know, and because you're the first person they think of to use your services if they need your services, if you're that guy that is authentically just trying to connect people with people. But I think it's the conversations that you have, and it wasn't how many people that I got to talk to, it was the quality of the conversations with the people that I had when I was there, I think, is what really you know, affected me, you know, personally while there. And I know some of our team members were connecting with people too. And it seemed like we were having conversations, you know, with individuals, you know, 2 or 3 individuals the entire time we were there, not, you know, going around the whole room, trying to see how many business cards we could hand out, but being super intentional with the conversation that we were having, because I didn't want people to think, you know, if my eyes were focused someplace else as they were having a conversation with me. And I think somebody else brought that up. There was a lot, and the speakers that were there, they were dropping some good nuggets, and you know, getting back to, and then there's the flip side to that too. And for those of you that may have read Grant Cardone's 10X book, he says any room that you should walk into, he says, you know, the first thought that should go through your head is who's got my money?
Yeah.
You know, which isn't bad either. You know what I mean, at the end of the day, and that's just being authentic. You know what I mean?
It's at the end of the day, we're in business.
Yeah, right. And that's a great book. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a networking event, but anywhere. And I think somebody touched on it. You know, you could be standing in line at McDonald's. You could be, you know, waiting to enter an elevator, or in an elevator with other people. Just have conversations. That's networking, is just having a conversation with people and making an impression, hopefully a good impression on somebody, because you never know if you're going to run into them again, or where that conversation is actually going to take you, because you never know who you're standing next to. You really don't. And you can't always judge a book by its cover either.
One of the funniest things in terms of my business career, I mentioned it on our first edition, me coming on here, used to go to like all these trade shows for home furnishings. And we had a gentleman who did some like commission sales for us, and he essentially helped tee up a deal for us where he was talking to a gentleman at this like sales agency where he would pinpoint brands to these big online vendors. It was over a chicken panini sandwich in like the little like makeshift cafeteria, where he wasn't like trying to hard sell this guy Steve at the booth, or, hey, you looking to come by our booth? Talking about what they were eating, and then why you're here, tell me more about you, how long have you been coming to High Point? Just actually being real. And it sounds so simple, but at the end of the day, it's people read through that. And a big thing, especially as I've gotten older, Ty, when I see younger people in the room, or to see people I know where they're uncomfortable or awkward because like they're getting out of their comfort zone. I think the best thing you can do is be real with someone and just try to make them feel comfortable in that room. So that was like my big thing helping co-host that event was, okay, I know X amount of people are coming here. Make sure they're talking to someone, or they're engaged, or getting out of their comfort zone, or this is new to them. Because I had a handful of colleagues and friends, for that matter, in the room where, you know, they haven't come necessarily to an event like this. They've done networking, but it's, oh, is it just like BNI? Is it like that? No, this is a different kind of format. Come, and you want to be real and make people feel comfortable. It's a slam dunk. I don't care what setting you're in.
Yeah, for sure. You know, and there's that old saying, you know, and this is true for marketing as well too. It's, you know, if you try to talk to everyone, you end up talking to no one. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So speaking of marketing, how do you help companies identify, who their audience is?
Okay, I love that you teed it up that way, because you got my brain stirring as soon as you said not being everything to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So, just a little context. At Schiffbauer Consulting Group, we specialize in really helping businesses grow click to close. And we really want to transform them at the end of the day as, we partner with them. Where even if it's a short term engagement, we're going on a date to start, I'm always looking at the end game. If they are a partner, if we have similar values, if we really jive and we're getting results, they like it, we like it, let's keep growing, man. I want to take you to a pre-revenue company to that, you know, three to get your first million, get to that 5 million mark.
Mm-hmm.
But to answer your question, I love this. I do a lot of it in really the initial like sales, like discovery process, but really go more in depth as we're onboarding, really getting to know folks more intimately. I'm like, what makes you special? What makes you different? And then in the trades, I'm sure you hear it all the time, going to these different conventions or guys talking to you with the elevator pitches. We're gas certified. We have 30 years of experience and we believe in quality.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How many other guys are saying that in your space?
Yeah, same message.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We rework that. You leverage your experience to help homeowners, with families have peace of mind
Mm-hmm.
in the Dallastown area.
Mm-hmm.
That's way more specific where we want to put a bunch of roofs on everyone we can. And we've been doing this for years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And oh, by the way, this is how some secondary details, we focus maybe on the Dallastown community. I'm just using that as an
Yeah.
random example,
Right.
but we get back to the community. We actually are very local and family driven because we serve primarily homeowners who are families. That really further ties it in.
Yeah.
So,
Would you say that's the biggest mistake that most companies make, is that it's the same wash and repeat messaging that, I mean, marketers, I guess, and have been using that tactic 30 years and we're certified in this and fifth generation, with the same, and it's like you see Facebook ads, and we talk about this a lot because we do most of our marketing in-house, and it's like you see that same roof. You see that same roof being tore off. You see that same group of people up on the roof, all wearing different colored shirts, and it's all the same. So, for somebody in the roofing space, particularly, like, what would you say? What would you say we should focus on the most?
oh, I love this question just because I've had experience working with a couple roofers in the local area over the years.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a little cynical in it. It kind of makes sense. Why is lead cost so high from an acquisition standpoint? Because not everybody, but a lot of the guys, in central Pennsylvania, and a lot of you see more of it, I feel like, in Baltimore County, they lean into that 30 years, gas certified.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that's entry level points. And
Mm-hmm.
then going from a marketing advertising angle, you're running the same exact dollar promo, essentially, other than maybe a $5 or $10 difference. Like, you're just giving me a price tag on a roof replacement, but the next guy is doing the same thing. What's the difference? What's your unique differentiator? You know, I'm okay potentially paying more if you resonate more with me in the messaging.
Mm-hmm.
What's your story? Give me a brand video. If I'm getting first served an ad from you on Facebook or Instagram or YouTube, tell me a little bit more about the process and roofing company ABC. And then, if I'm interested and I get reserved another video or I went on your website necessarily you didn't capture my information. Okay, maybe serve another ad that's more sales process focused. Don't do that right off the rip.
Mm-hmm.
Like, stand out.
Yeah.
It could be, something as reimagining something traditional as the roof replacement or the roof tune up, but spin it your own way. Let's say you got a banging siding division.
Mhm.
And the other guys out there don't, just because you actually do all this custom work. Leverage that a little bit, because that's a positioning point in your marketplace. It might not, be all the bread and butter when we look at the margins, but that might get you in the door if you're going for, a higher tier audience in certain like more affluent, neighborhoods or local areas versus just casting a wide net.
Yeah. Yeah. No, we've done all that, and it seemed to work for a little bit. And, and the thing is, I guess everyone's trying to figure out, and if they're not trying to figure out, is how to break through that noise, because there's so much noise out there. And what is like a couple tricks, and it doesn't matter what industry, how do you break through that noise? How do you stand out? Is it the way that your ads look? Is it pain points that you're trying to, because let's face it, you only have 15 to 30 seconds to catch people's attention.
And then boom, at
Yeah.
least to capture them initially and get them interested.
Yeah, right. So how do you break through that noise? If you were starting a business today, redoing a business now, what would you do to break through that noise to make yourself unique?
Okay, so I'll give a little dichotomy, like really 30,000 foot view.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just say I'll use HVAC to switch it up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Very similar home service kind of vertical. So you're ex HVAC guy, I'm starting off this company. Really look around you from a marketing standpoint. I mentioned earlier, marketing community. To me, the number one rule of marketing, though, is knowing your market.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm ex HVAC company, I want to know how each of my main direct local competition are positioning themselves.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of like deals are they running right now for heating this time of year? What are they saying? How consistent is it? How inconsistent is it? And look for a gap. Look for an opportunity. Are they doing video? If not, that's a competitive advantage right there. If they are, and you probably see this all the time on the roofing side, it's that style of video right now where you got the roofer on the roof with the phone.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, it's Jim. We just replaced this roof right now. We can do the same deal for you for X amount.
Mm-hmm.
That's super trendy right now.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the home guys who check this out are going to know that. Certain trades, you don't see that. But that's becoming a format where I feel like audiences, they're getting used to it. Okay, yeah, no, that's potentially the roofer or said roof owner or the public face of this roofing company and their marketing material that they're putting out. Does it work? Does it stand out?
Mm-hmm.
You got to look at, and it's a science in a way, Ty, and for folks listening out there, where to really break through the noise, it's understanding what people are doing and not doing, putting it as simple as that, and then testing. There's been over the years where we'll run, 5 different creatives and various variants for a home service company. And a lot of the time I'm like, this one's going to stick, and it sticks. But sometimes, man, you have this general graphic that would beat a video, and you're like, okay, it's resonating, it's working. We're able to track lead flow directly from this compared to some of the other ads, and they're actually booking jobs from it. Keep running it. So when something is working, when you are starting to break through the noise, don't get too cute until it doesn't become relevant anymore. That's where I feel like other folks sometimes too, it's something's working and then they want to play around with it because they get bored. And it's objectively, it's ego. It's like, man, like that ad's kind of old. We could do something better. Yeah, do something better and test against it from a creative standpoint or an ad copy standpoint. But don't reinvent the wheel. If it's still going to work, keep running it.
Yeah. No, and you said something key there. You got to test things and it takes time, and a lot of people, it's hard for them to stay consistent and just keep throwing shit on the wall. Let's see what sticks. Keep throwing shit, keep throwing it, keep throwing stuff and keep throwing stuff out there, but also paying attention to like what is working, because a lot of there's a lot of moving parts there. I mean, it could be the time of day that a video hit off well. It could be the type. How long is it? What's stopping them from scrolling? And I have Facebook mostly in mind right now. When I'm speaking, everybody is on Facebook. Everybody. Mostly everybody is, and there's, Instagram, and then there's TikTok's making, big, huge splash nowadays. A lot of people on TikTok, a lot of people that you wouldn't even think would be on TikTok are on TikTok because it's so user friendly. But staying out in front of that stuff and getting and having the right tools and resources so you can keep testing things and keep throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks and stuff like that. So, I guess, should businesses get involved, like their operations, their installs, their service calls, and use that to fuel their content? Like, should they bring that into their content? Like, should they be on a roof saying, "Hey, we just installed this," or should it just try to cover pain points? You know what I mean? Like, I can't afford it, so offer 18-month savings cash, or what do you think the best approach is? Because I too have thrown a fish net and just thought everybody was my client, everybody was my customer, and we're going to throw out their ads for roofing, siding, windows, gutters, and solar. And what I noticed was it really, you only have so many resources. So by the time we throw out the 5 or 6 things that we do, everything becomes watered down. Okay. What I've noticed is if you can kind of just stick to, and even if you change it up seasonally, whatever, do it a whole quarter, roofing for one whole quarter, and find what seasons are best for the roofing season, find what season for the window season, find what seasons are best for the gutter season and gutter guard season, and really just drive that in. Shit, I almost forgot my question in the beginning.
That's okay.
And again, well, I'm just trying to throw some nuggets out there too for your guests too, because you're more than welcome. You're sharing our stage.
Yeah, now I'm going to be setting this to folks in general, where I might send this to a few guys I've been talking to where they've been on the fence. I'm like, pretty much, we're just giving a marketing talk right now, live time, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, me too. And both have been doing this for a long time, and things change, things evolve. And it's crazy to keep up with nowadays. But let's talk about AI, how AI is changing everything, and how companies should be using it and use it to improve, their marketing in particular, without losing, I guess, that human touch.
The touch, yes. I'm glad you brought it up. I always hear about it. It's not going away. I tell folks AI is another tool in the marketing sales toolbox. It might not necessarily be the end all be all 5-10 years from now in terms of how you grow your business, depending on what your business is, who you are as a brand at its core, but it's a tool and you should know how to use it for you and how to best connect with folks. It's funny you asked that in particular, though. John, my long-term, essentially, business partner, been on almost every project for the past 7.5 years I've been doing this. Shout out to him. He sent a note last night about a client with their Google My Business listing. This is the organic rankings. They have a great name in the area, but they're ranked a little lower because they're not open 24 hours, Ty. Wow. So he's like, maybe nudge him a little bit and potentially let's recommend him a tool where he can be open 24 hours, at least intake the calls in, where he'll have more of a fighting chance on some organic leads and interest for his Google My Business listing, rather than saying 8 to 5 on his listing. Where if someone wants something, like a junk removal company, if someone wants a clean out and they're pissed off at 7 o'clock at night, and he might be busy with the kids and his admin might be tied up with their personal life, get the call in, it shows that visibility, and that AI assistant can intake that call for him at this point. So that's like an unconventional tool those are things we're actively researching at Schiffbauer Consulting Group to help these small business cats get a competitive advantage, not just on the marketing side of things. When it comes to marketing, I like to say you can use AI for your content to some extent, but it's an 80-20 principle. You should not be mindlessly creating, oh, give me some pain point posts and I'm going to throw them out there on Facebook and I'm not going to edit them. To me, that's almost more damaging from a branding standpoint, especially if you really pride yourself on being a homegrown local entity or whatever. If you're just a one-man crew with a helper or 15, 20 guys, you still got to be you at the end of the day. AI, like I mentioned, AI is a tool. Use your brain when you're using it, especially when it comes to like content. So if you are, it is a tool in the sense where use it to generate ideas in terms of, hey, what are some pain points for my, customers if I own a tree care business? Okay, let's do the pain points. Let's take it a step further, Ty, and folks out there. I'm going to dump into this AI agent or prompt all our previous or samples of our ad copy and how we speak. Here's a couple Facebook post screenshots. Here's the content on our website that we're really proud of because it actually does sound like us because we invested time and effort to make sure it does. Here's another note. I'm going to upload a video I did, me as the owner, because I'm the primarily, sales specialist, and we train our guys to like approach folks like this. I'm going to upload that into the agent prompt. So all of a sudden, you upload all these examples, you spend time and effort, and they actually sound like you, your brand, and your business. That AI agent prompt is going to sound a lot closer to how you want to talk to your potential audience out there versus than any tree company or any old junk company or roofing company out there. That's when you using your brain and being strategic with the tool versus just picking it up. It's the real thing. As if you're climbing on a roof, you're just not just going to start chipping away at it. There's certain ways you're going to tackle on how to replace that roof and how to properly prep it. That's the same thing when you're using these new tools. You got to think about it like that.
Right. Yeah, no, for sure. And there's so many different ways you can use it. And one is, posting, your content and what times a day. And I know a lot of companies waste money on boosting post without a strategy, like you were kind of talking about there. And so what are some smarter ways to approach paid ads?
Okay, that's great. So a big thing is ideally you want to funnel someone where they can give you their information and you can intake it in a proper fashion. A big mistake I see, and usually it's a lot of guys where they just have a call extension on their ad, but I know damn right well, man, they don't have an out of like office assistant that's more traditional, like call center, or they don't have the AI assistant. So if I click on their ad at 8:35 at night, they just wasted a probably significant amount of like bucks right there.
Yeah.
So making sure the destination point is somewhere where that information can be secured and you can reach them in a timely fashion. Yeah. Direct them to the website. If you have a website, you should have a website. It is a sales tool. I don't care if it's a one pager real souped up or something, 5, 10, 15, 20 pages, depending on how much information and consideration you want to give a potential customer or client. Make sure you have points to intake that information in a timely fashion. So if, let's say they are, window shopping or price shopping for, something more cosmetic, a hardscaping project at 10 o'clock at night, because Susie and Devin, that's the only time they have really to look together, to consider quotes and options. Make sure if you have a contact form, it says, we're going to reply back to you within 24 hours or during these hours. So that's the expectation of when they can get back to you, where they don't get pissed off and don't consider you once you don't get back. Or if you are in a more high pressure environment where, it's roofing and, there's a storm rolling through and it is 10 o'clock at night, you might have that call center or AI assistant, but make sure you also have maybe that chat bot feature that can intuitively feed that information to the right party so they can get teed up for service right there when they immediately need it, because that pain point's the highest.
Yeah.
Because at that point, it's just you're bleeding money, man,
Mhm.
on ads. It doesn't make sense if you can't properly or purposely pick up the phone.
Mhm.
At the end of the day, I run into folks sometimes problems in early engagements where a lot of the time I first talk to them, Ty, folks out there, I ask more sales related questions on their sales process and how they intake and work with customers and clients versus what they do for marketing and have done for marketing. Because if they can't pick up the phone or call back, why are you potentially going to spend thousands of dollars and invest that with a partner like us? Because it's at that point, there's going to be waste.
Yeah. No, such a great point. To gather that data, and answer the phone.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You have to have somebody that is answering the phone. Even and I'm a big stickler on that too, because like you said, most people are working 9 to 5 jobs. They go home, they got sporting events. They're the kid. They come home, they eat dinner. Next thing you know, it's 8:39, 10 o'clock at night, and that's when they're scrolling or searching. Whether they're using AI, because you can use AI as a search engine now,
Yeah.
Google or whatever the case might be. You got to have something in place, a call center put in place, somebody. And if you're advertising on your website 24/7, you better have somebody answering that phone or getting right back to them.
Yeah, in a timely fashion. There's an expectation of when I will get a reply for a next step.
Exactly. And chatbot's huge, especially in Messenger. Have somebody, that is somebody or something that is replying back that, like you said, will get back to you within 2 hours or 24 hours, or a chatbot that can actually have a conversation with somebody. You know what I mean? And it's taken the time and the place. It takes time to set those things up and put them in place, but it's worth it in the long run. Like you had mentioned, they're spending a lot of money with the marketing company. They're spending a lot of money on creating the content. They're spending a lot of time and energy. And if you're going to go all in, go all in. But don't forget how you're capturing the call.
Mhm.
How you're capturing, the form submissions that are coming through your website or through social media and all those things. That's just as important. It's almost like that's the foundation. Like you almost need to have that set up first before you start throwing the fishing line out there. You know what I mean? Like, how am I going to be available to answer the call, or am I going to be on a roof? Am I going to be
I,
on someone's kitchen sink, turning wrenches, and I won't be able to answer the phone anyhow?
which is it's fine, Ty, if that's the case. Let's say I'm a guy pre-revenue starting off. I maybe had one crew.
Mm-hmm.
I ask them who picks up the phone. If
Mm-hmm.
they say me, I'm like, let's have a conversation about that before we even press play.
Absolutely.
I'm like, here's the expectation. If we primarily push ads to your phone and you don't pick up right away, the chance of you being considered is going to go down.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we want to give them either A, the option where they can go to the website and fill everything out, or where something can be captured on their own accord. Or two, it's just you gotta, you gotta know there's the risk where if you're on a roof and doing this and not capturing every call, we're gonna have a conversation down the road in our first phase of our engagement. If you're like, man, I'm not closing any business, well, we're able to track 30 calls from, you know, Google Ads data that we have set up in analytics for you.
Mm-hmm.
90% of them are 717 numbers where even if our early campaign, we're really hitting the marks. We see some high intention calls coming in, a minute, 2 minutes, 4, 5, 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
What's up with all these calls that weren't answered when I see the 717 numbers? Did you call them back? And a lot of times it's this accountability thing with folks that I have. It's like, nah, I didn't get back to it yet. I'm like, why not?
Mm-hmm.
Especially if this is a goal for you to grow your business, depending on what those goals that may look like for those folks.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what KPI should a business, really be tracking? And because I know it's not just the likes and the comments and the impressions and stuff like that. So what KPIs should we be following?
If it's truly growth from a revenue standpoint, it's what's my cost per lead,
Mm-hmm.
and that is a number in itself. So it's figuring out what's the cost per call over X amount of seconds, how
Mm-hmm.
many calls are you getting, and then getting qualitative feedback from those folks and yourself more importantly internally. Okay, if I'm getting 20 calls over X amount at X amount duration at Y cost, how many of these are my closing? And then I have now a tracker doing this for 3 months. Is this scalable? And if the front end lead cost is good, but the actual close cost in terms of getting an estimate and getting the job is bad, it's looking more internally at that point. Is it something with my sales process? Is it something with my delivery of that estimate to close the door? What are the objections if I'm not getting that business at the end of the day? When we start with folks, Ty, and for folks out there, we focus on that first initial lead cost. What's your cost per call? If we set up analytics properly, what's that cost per lead coming in your website or contact form? That's our baseline metric, because until we get more in depth with you in terms of providing some guidance on how to improve your sales process and your operations, that's stuff we do really long term with folks. It's you as a business owner, because if you're taking the calls and running the estimates, it's not our responsibility. We can get qualitative feedback saying, hey, Paul, this one's out of market. Okay, that shouldn't have happened. Let's put a negative zip code in so you don't get that anymore. We don't want to go in New York City because, based on your business, the leads we're getting from a paid ad standpoint, are lesser quality. That's something we can control on our end. But the main KPI is your cost per lead, and it's really 3 quadrants of that: the marketing cost, the initial acquisition, your estimate cost or your quote cost, and then your actual true job cost factored in. Because that number is going to look completely different from job cost to lead cost. But ideally, over time, when you measure the 3 as a business owner, you want to make sure it's very sustainable for you and scalable. Because you might be really happy where you're at with what you're doing from a paid standpoint and even an organic standpoint. It's tracking that from a lead cost standpoint. So it's this, what goes into organic. It's a little more naive, a little more ambiguous, but it's usually time and effort.
Yeah.
If you're a bigger, home service company, maybe 5 to 10 million a year, and you got a marketing coordinator or manager on staff, what activities are they doing? If they're not handling the paid stuff from an organic standpoint to generate or further generate organic business for you. And you need to evaluate that in terms of their salary and in terms of their time and effort.
Yeah, no. So much good stuff that you reviewed there. And the one thing that kept going through my head, it's a little bit overwhelming because the second, it's kind of twofold here. The second that you think you have it figured out, it's neither one of those facets are static.
No, it's ever changing.
It's very fluid. Like what was making the phone ring 6 months ago may not make the phone ring today.
Especially in the trades. Because
Yeah.
you have the given seasonality, especially in the Northeast market.
Yeah.
We pinpointed in most trades where there's different little pockets with roofing versus maybe your traditional tree guys.
Yeah.
But we kind of know it as the back of our hand, where January through February is the lowest for most of the folks in our main book in the trades.
Yeah.
So it's this if we're working with someone long term, how do they be proactive and get ahead at the end of summer into fall with the marketing programs and initiatives to putting out? So what are we doing paid? What are you going to do, or how can we help you on some of the stuff where let's get more out of your current book? So you got an email list of past customers. What can we do to nurture them to maybe set some stuff up over the winter or in the early spring to kind of get you through that lull?
Yeah. Yeah. No, you always got to be thinking about it. If you're just now thinking, now's the time is the season where you should be thinking about next year's marketing. You should have things in place, already things in motion, you should have had them in the beginning of Q4 at the end of Q3.
Correct.
And I know it's hard. I know it is. And January will be here before we know it, but and I'm not saying January is too late to start thinking about this, because you do have January, February, and March, at least in our seasonal trade that we're in. But I've sat here in this office January 1st, that Monday morning was like, dude, I didn't even think about what we were going to do for 20, whatever year that was. When I was That was the last time.
Because you're running and gunning, and it's just like,
Yeah.
I'm sure you probably sat where this kind of sucks right now.
Yeah.
I wish I thought I had or thought a little differently about this.
Of course, because none of this stuff happens overnight. And what you're doing eventually is you're creating brand awareness, and I think that's what's helped us, carry through where a lot of other people, have been slower. We've remained steady or busier than usual because of our community involvement. So what role does community involvement play in brand awareness, and how can companies get it right so it's not cheesy?
It's got to be them. Because sometimes cheesy to one company is not going to be cheesy to another company that it's brand and audience tie.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay. But you shouldn't be doing everything that, someone else is doing necessarily. Make sure it's still you.
Mm-hmm.
And it comes back to like even networking in person 101. Be real.
Mm-hmm.
I think a great example in the local South Central market of a home business is Jared Fetro, You Relax Moving. He's got his shtick, he's got his skits, but they
Mm-hmm.
work for his brand. Personally, in You Relax as a business where it's fun, family oriented, they do things throughout the year to support that mission, and it's consistent in their marketing and messaging. But at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, we're going to take care of your family. We're going to have a little fun doing it, but we also are experts, and here's some of the technical stuff that we do. If another moving company was trying to do what You Relax is doing with all the skits in the same vein, be like, wait, aren't these other guys doing it? That's kind of a little corny,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, for sure.
And it kind of comes back to that example when you asked me about like roofing in general.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to sound like all the other roofers.
No.
And
No, it's hard. I mean, because there's so much noise out there and everybody's posting the same shit, the warranties, and it's family owned and operated. And, this is the people buy from companies, don't buy from companies, I should say, that, they buy from the brand that they recognize and they trust. Awareness is the first step in the relationship. So anybody that's getting started in this, like what is your brand going to be? What is your lasting impression going to be? And if I had to do it all over again, I would be super intentional about that. Like it took me a good 4 or 5 years to figure out my why, like the company's why, and create a culture. And we've lived that for, the past 12, 15 years, but it unfortunately had taken me, because we didn't have social media back then. We really didn't. We had Yellow Book. Yellow Book finally went digital and started creating, websites and things like that. So it was a lot of word of mouth, wrap trucks, yard signs, door hangers. And we still use a lot of that traditional brand awareness, that omnipresence. But what is your messaging now that you have, digital marketing and stuff like that? And it's so much easier now to reach, but you got to make sure it all matches too. Like you can't have a color of something on this and a color of something. And I'm not saying pattern interrupt isn't good over time, but you shouldn't even be thinking about that yet until, you're well established.
it's branding 101. And Ty, I've seen it so much over my career, and I've been very blessed to have a couple mentors in the branding space where these guys are like savants, where they've done like Fortune 100 corporate branding, and be able to kind of early on in my career work under them projects and kind of shadow them for me to get more experience just in how to run an agency and how to interface with clients, and really the most important thing, brand. Good marketing can only take branding so far. If you don't know who you are and you're saying you're the best HVAC guy, but you also offer plumbing and electrical, you're going to get lost in the sauce, buddy. Hone in on what you do best. I mentioned the example where it's a little outside the box, but like if you're serving an affluent area and some people are more intentional with their sidings and windows, lean on that. Even if they're not your moneymaker, that's roofing's where you make your moneymaker when you go out on the sales side and have that conversation with those folks. That's where we're going to make the bread at the end of the day and pay the bills.
Yeah, true.
Because I've seen guys, especially in the roofing industry, where they really don't have a brand other than those 30 years gaff.
Yeah.
They don't know who they are. They think it's this, just because they can throw a roof on, they should be making money, and they do. But if they really honed in on self-reflecting and honestly thinking objectively, if here's a couple questions to consider for folks out there with branding. I'll give this nugget. What would you want one of your customers to say about you? What are those words? And get that feedback if you can, because I'm sure one of your good customers would tell you that. And then talk to a colleague. I call them a champion or cheerleader, where they refer business to you or willing to refer business to you. What would they say about you?
Yeah.
And then if those two things don't jive or they sound different, you have some brand incongruency, my friend, because that champion or cheerleader, even if they never bought from you, they should know how you best serve customers. And the same thing, even with some of your core customers, where they might have been like an indirect client or customer where they bought one of your ancillary services. Oh yeah, they're pretty good. I mean, I've heard it in my line of work where, oh yeah, they're pretty good at websites. What we really do is digital transformation, growing you click to close at the end of the day. We're more than just like a website shop. That was some branding incongruency, me starting off a couple years ago, or like, man, I had to look a little inward. So it's making sure your customer clients know what you do best, same as your referral partners and other people in your network and circle. And I love how that tied right back into our initial conversation with networking there.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. It's humanizing the brand. You know, it's people trust people, you know, people do business with people they know, they like, they trust. And how do you get them to do all those things, you know? And it's the companies that are, you know, showing their team, their culture, their values. And those are the companies that are going to win today. You know, it truly is. And if you can wrap that up and tie a nice little neat bow on it and you know, hit the pain points and the call to action in 15 seconds, like, you're going to win the battle. And it's hard because we live in an Amazon world today. People don't want to watch a 30-second. I mean, it's tough to get them to watch a whole 30-second, you know, anything over 30 seconds, forget about it. They're going to keep scrolling. And, you know, so that's just kind of my spin on it. But it's like I said, there's ebbs and flows with it. And it's very fluid. It's nothing. It's not static at all. You know, AI is changing, and it's changing our industry fast. I mean, we use it in just about every facet. From we're building out our own AI right now for our company. You know, SOPs, KPIs, everything. You know, and as far in terms of how we're creating the content and when the content's being put out and what platforms the content's being placed on at what times a day, and all these things that, you know, blog post writing. I mean, shit, AI can bust out 500 in 5 minutes, you know, blog posts, outside of paying an individual, you know, to write 5 a day, maybe, you know, back in not that long ago, but you know, like you said, getting back to the networking thing, you know, marketing isn't just digital. You know, it's you know, in your event proved that, you know, real people connecting with you know, real people, and which creates real momentum. You know, at least I felt the momentum once we left there. So that was good. And is there? We're getting ready to come up on that hour mark, and I know you got a hard stop here. Is there anything else that you want to throw out there quick? Another little nugget.
Biggest thing I can say is, if you're a business owner and you're not happy or pleased with where you're at now, you need to think about where you want to be in 12 months. I know a lot of guys out there, even guys who are bigger. There's a lot going on in the economy and the seasonality right now. You might be thinking, just get through the winter, give me the spring. Where do you want to be in 12 months? And look at it objectively, what you're doing, marketing, advertising, and sales, first and foremost. And then the operations are going to support a lot of the gaps that still might be occurring in those three like business quadrants. Marketing, advertising, you could lump into one, but that's where I would really stress is this is time for reflection, but action. Where a lot of things you want to be doing, J1, you should be doing them before you put those Christmas presents under the tree this year.
Mm-hmm.
Get serious about who you want to be. And if you want to have a conversation with me, feel free to reach out. Because at minimum, I'm going to point you in the right direction.
No doubt. No doubt. Great advice, man. You know, Paul, always a pleasure having you on the show, man. You're one of those guys who truly understand, you know, not just the tactics behind marketing, but the heart that goes at the heart behind it, you know, with connecting people, building trust, and, you know, elevating the brand the right way. And for anyone listening, if you want to get sharper on your marketing, or just want to understand how to get your message, you know, out there more clearly, definitely reach out to Paul. You know, Paul's an OG in our local area, and he knows everybody, which is a good start right there. And if he doesn't have the tools, he knows somebody that's got the tools. You know, and thanks for tuning in, everybody, to this episode of Behind the Tool Belt, and make sure that you like, love, subscribe, share this out, and leave us a review. And Paul, we'll put your website in our comments. That way, if anybody wants to reach out to you that might listen to this later, they'll be able to hook you up. And
sounds good.
Them up.
I appreciate it, brother. It was great running to you last week, and this has been fun.
Yeah, for sure, man. I hope to stay in touch.
Oh, we will. We'll be intentional about it.
Yes, for sure. All right. Till next week, everybody stay dry out there.